Eagle Corporation has been having some issues in their workplace with sexual harassment through the playing of inappropriate radio stations that made an uncomfortable, hostile work environment for female workers in the same workplace that need to be addressed. Now, this whole process and the whole problem set that is at hand is a result of overlying issues in the company. The first overlying issue is poor lines of communication between management and production teams. This is evident in the fact that the women notified the intern, the HR department, and the intern that was working there of the issues that they were having, and they even wrote notes to the supervisors above them, and the issues persisted into the next evening and did not get quickly addressed. So there are poor lines of communication. These people were not adequately addressed and listened to. The second big overlying issue is the lack of serious attitude towards sexual harassment issues, which is evident from the ground up, from the men who were running the radio and did not take into account and did not really listen to the women who complained about this issue, all the way up to the people who failed to take these complaints seriously. Because as these complaints were made, the management had the opportunity to apologize and quickly act, but they defended their policy on the music and on the radio instead of quickly acting with sensitivity. So the dangers for Eagle Corporation, they're very practical, real dangers. And the first one is a poor work environment that's created here. And this poor work environment will cause productivity levels to drop. For a production company who is running on a very tight season of work, they cannot afford to have productivity levels to drop. Worker focus drops, and this can cause a lot of problems with safety or errors in production, and the product being poorly created. And the third is tensions will flare in such circumstances. And as tensions flare, this creates further issues for workplace violence and workplace safety issues. And all of these will cost the company money. As productivity slows, they cannot afford to lose productivity. People will quit. That's another big expense, because hiring and training new employees, especially on a time crunch like this company is on, will be very expensive. People will quit, and that costs a lot to replace them. Another huge expense associated with these issues of handling sexual harassment issues and these people's complaints seriously is the litigation cost if a lawsuit is brought up. The average lawsuit cost, according to Workforce Magazine, just for winning a case for the company, even if they win, it costs upwards of $75,000 to $125,000 on average. Now there you can do a lot of things with this money instead of just throwing it away because of poor handling of issues in the workplace. Fox News, when they lost their lawsuit with sexual harassment, paid out $45 million over the course of a year. So these litigation costs can be hugely expensive and need to be seriously considered, and the consequences of these actions and of potential problems need to be considered seriously by Eagle Corporation. Some more expenses are time alone for such a company. According to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the average time it takes for a company to just win one of these or settle one of these cases is 275 days. 275 days is a lot of time and involves a lot of energy that could be spent other places and could be improving this company and working towards the company's goals. Another big expense is the company reputation. When tarnished, can create a huge expense for the company in sales and in cost to repair a reputation through marketing. There's so many costs that today are especially important because of the media. The media blows up a lot of issues very quickly, and they will get right on a company who is guilty of failing to address sexual harassment issues. For example, Baylor University failed to address their sexual harassment issues with the football team, and it eventually led to many lawsuits. The football team was completely broken down. Their management and their coaching system, everything had to be torn down and rebuilt, and they have since gone to irrelevance from a good, strong Division I competitor in NCAA sports. So this private university and companies anywhere will take a huge hit through customers and through supporters if they lose their reputation with them. Now let's get into the legal implications of what happened with this company. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 says that harassment is illegal when it is so frequent or severe that it creates a hostile or offensive work environment, or when it results in an adverse employment decision, such as the victim being fired or demoted. So the first part of this harassment, is clearly evident in the dynamic between the men and the women. The men played a radio station that talked about women in a very sexually forward way, and the women did not like that. It made them uncomfortable, and so they went out to talk to them, and they did not respond by respectfully turning off the radio station or changing the radio station, and this made the environment very uncomfortable for the women. So, and it repeated itself. They addressed this issue with management, but management didn't do anything about it, and so it created a hostile and offensive work environment for these women, and it continued on to the next night. So it is frequent and it is continuing, like this law addresses. And the thing about the hostile environment aspect of this law is that this aspect of sexual harassment places a greater liability on a company. And so Eagle Corporation needs to realize how this will fall back on them, and it can cause a lot of legal implications for them and not just be isolated to the workers involved. The California Fair Employment and Housing Act, a state law, really cracks down on sexual harassment. California has mandatory training and policy production from a company, publishing their policies to make sure everyone in the company knows what is going on and how to prevent such issues from happening. So the California state law really cracks down on companies, and it makes it mandatory for them to address these issues before they even happen, much less once something has already happened. Now, the music policy itself, we'll take a step back and just look at the music policy itself, is very risky. And if a company is going to have a music policy that reaches everyone and music over loudspeakers, they need to be strictly regulated. And there needs to be some sort of consensus. This small group of men had control over something that influenced a lot of people and that hurt these women. And ultimately, the company's cost-benefit analysis was very flawed when they said that the complaints that they received before outweighed the complaints that they receive now, and so they decided it was a good idea to just keep this and deal with the consequences. Their cost-benefit analysis is very flawed, because if these issues get out of hand, there could be a huge cost for sexual harassment. And so while the company itself might not have instigated sexual harassment, they allowed it to happen by failing to regulate the music and failing to take control over their workplace. So some recommendations going forward is to first take very prompt action. The laws, the state and federal laws regarding these sexual harassment issues place much more guilt on the company when they do not act promptly. So first, they need to act promptly, and first apologize to the women for not acting promptly and for the things that happened to them. Second, they need to reevaluate the company's stance on sexual harassment. And this is going to happen by educating all employees, not just the ones involved. But as a part of educating all these employees, the California Chamber of Commerce website attached in the appendix has a lot of material for educating and training people and developing policies for sexual harassment. So these need to be used and need to be covered. And beyond educating all of the other employees, the people involved, the men involved, need to be personally spoken with by the HR department to make it clear that these issues going forward will not be tolerated and that there is going to be change in the workplace. Now, if the music issue and the radio issue is pushed still and they want to have that, maybe earbuds will be an option. If it is not a workplace safety issue for workers to wear earbuds so they can listen to their own music without it affecting anybody else, maybe earbuds for them could be a possible solution. So going forward for this company, as some general practices to keep in mind, I think this company needs to take worker complaints seriously and act fast. Their failure to address these issues when they were brought up and they let the issues continue to the next night, this cannot happen going forward. They need to start taking worker complaints seriously and acting fast, especially in a quick season like they have in a 24/7 environment. They need to consider potential consequences of company-wide policies such as this radio. The possible implications that can come along with these decisions need to be wisely considered and evaluated as a group. And they need to be very sensitive to a wide range of issues that can go on in a company with a wide range of people and beliefs.